The plane touched down at Portland International Airport at 4:47 p.m., 3 minutes ahead of schedule. I'd been clutching my phone for the entire 5-hour flight from Boston, checking it obsessively despite knowing airplane mode blocked everything. Now, as wheels hit tarmac, the device buzzed to life. 23 notifications flooded the screen. Missed calls from Cordelia's neighbors, voicemails from numbers I didn't recognize, text messages that made my stomach drop. The most recent was from an unknown Portland number, sent 2 hours ago. Mr. Harwick, this is Thad Kelso. I live next to your daughter. Please call me before you go to her house. It's urgent. I dialed immediately. The call went straight to a full mailbox. My hands were shaking as I gathered my carry-on from the overhead compartment. Other passengers moved in slow motion, retrieving bags, checking phones, completely unaware that my world was collapsing. Lenore had stopped responding to texts 4 days ago, not gradually, suddenly. Mid-conversation about a book she was reading, she'd simply vanished from communication. Every call since had gone to voicemail. Every text delivered but never read. I told myself there were reasonable explanations. Phone problems, charger issues, maybe she dropped it somewhere. Lenore was visiting Cordelia and Malcolm for 2 weeks. They'd take care of her. She was safe. But that text from the neighbor shattered every rationalization. I moved through the airport on autopilot. Baggage claim, rental car counter, GPS programmed with Cordelia's Beaverton address. The route was familiar. I'd visited 3 times since they'd bought the house 2 years ago. Nice neighborhood, good schools, exactly the kind of place you'd raise a family. Except Cordelia and Malcolm had no children. They'd said they were building careers first, getting financially stable. Cordelia was a pharmacist at a major chain. Malcolm sold commercial real estate, combined income well over $200,000 annually. They shouldn't have needed money. But for the past year, conversations with Cordelia had increasingly circled back to finances, casual questions that felt calculated. Dad, have you thought about updating your estate plan? You know, with property values in Boston so high now. Mom's medical expenses must be getting expensive. Are you managing okay? If anything happened to you both, how complicated would the probate process be? I'd mentioned it to Lenore after one particularly pointed conversation. She dismissed my concerns with her usual optimism. She's our daughter, Gideon. She's just thinking ahead. That's responsible. Now driving through Portland's evening traffic, those questions felt sinister. The GPS directed me off the highway into suburban sprawl. Strip malls gave way to residential streets lined with craftsman homes and well-maintained lawns. Cordelia's neighborhood looked exactly as it had during my last visit at Christmas. Peaceful, safe, normal. Her house stood at the end of Oakmont Drive. Colonial-style blue-gray siding, white trim, professional landscape. 2 cars in the driveway. Cordelia's silver Lexus and Malcolm's black BMW. Both expensive, both financed at rates I knew they complained about. I pulled up to the curb and killed the engine. For a moment I just sat there, phone in hand, staring at that text from Thad Kelso. Then I saw movement in my peripheral vision. A man was running across the lawn from the house next door, not jogging, sprinting. Mid-50s, wearing veterinary scrubs with a stethoscope still hanging around his neck like he'd rushed out mid-appointment. Mr. Harwick. He reached my car slightly breathless. Thank God. I've been trying to reach you all day. I got out slowly, carefully. You're Thad Kelso? Yes, I live there. He pointed at the house to the right of Cordelia's. Listen, I don't know how to say this gently, so I'm just going to say it. Something happened to your wife. Something bad. My chest constricted. Where is Lenore? I don't know exactly, but 3 nights ago, Thursday, I heard screaming from your daughter's house. Around 2 in the morning, a woman's voice. It was your wife. I'm certain. She was begging someone to call you, saying she needed help. The world tilted slightly. I gripped the car door for stability. What do you mean? Screaming. Thad's expression was grim, not just yelling. Terror. Real terror. I got up, went to my window. Your daughter and her husband were in the backyard. They had flashlights. He stopped, jaw working. They were digging, burying something. My mind couldn't process the words. Burying what? I don't know, but I heard your wife screaming inside the house, and they were outside burying something in the garden. I grabbed my phone and took pictures through the window. Then I called 911. You called the police? Yes, immediately. But by the time officers arrived, maybe 15 minutes later, your daughter and her husband had gone back inside. They told the police everything was fine, just a nightmare, that I'd overreacted. The officers checked through the windows, saw nothing obviously wrong, and left. I stared at Cordelia's house. Curtains drawn, no lights visible. Everything appeared normal, undisturbed. Where's my wife now? My voice came out hoarse. I don't know. I haven't seen her since that night. Haven't seen anyone go in or out except your daughter and her husband leaving for work. But Mr. Harwick, Thad pulled out his phone, swiped through photos. I took these Thursday night. Look, he handed me the device. The images were dark, grainy, shot through a window at 2 a.m., but clear enough to show two figures in a backyard, flashlight beams illuminating fresh dirt. One figure tall, masculine, Malcolm holding a shovel. The other smaller, feminine, Cordelia, standing nearby with what looked like a plastic storage bin. I zoomed in on the bin. Something glinted inside it. Metal? Jewelry? I also recorded audio, Thad said quietly. Your wife's voice. Would you like to hear it? Yes. He navigated to a voice memo, pressed play. For 3 seconds there was nothing but ambient noise. Then a woman's voice, distant but unmistakable. Please, someone call Gideon. I need help. Please. Lenore's voice, terrified, desperate. The recording cut off abruptly. I handed the phone back with trembling hands. I'm calling the police. I already tried again yesterday, Thad said. Filed another report. But without seeing your wife, without evidence of a crime, they said there's nothing they can do. She's an adult. She has a right to privacy. Your daughter claims she's fine, just resting. She's not fine. The certainty settled in my chest like ice. Something's wrong, very wrong. I pulled out my phone and dialed Cordelia. It rang 4 times. Then voicemail, her cheerful recorded voice. Hey, this is Delia. Can't get to the phone right now, but leave a message and I'll call you back soon. I tried Malcolm. Same result. Voicemail after several rings. Then I called the one number I'd been avoiding, Lenore's cell phone. It rang. Once, twice, 3 times. On the 4th ring someone answered. Hello? Cordelia's voice. Not Lenore's. My hand tightened on the phone. Why do you have your mother's phone? A pause. Then too bright, too cheerful. Dad, you're here? I thought you were coming next week. Where's your mother? She's resting. The flight from Boston really took it out of her. You know how she is with traveling. Cordelia, I kept my voice level, prosecutor steady. I'm standing outside your house, with your neighbor, the one who heard your mother screaming Thursday night. Silent, complete, absolute silence. Let me in, I said. Now, Dad, this is ridiculous. Mr. Kelso misunderstood what he heard. Mom had a nightmare. She was calling out in her sleep. I was about to call you, but it was the middle of the night, and I didn't want to worry you over nothing. Then let me see her. She's sleeping. I don't want to wake her. She needs rest. Open the door, Cordelia, or I'm calling 911 right now. Another pause. Then, grudgingly, fine, give me a minute. The call ended. Thad and I stood in the driveway, watching the house. A light turned on inside. Living room, visible through a gap in the curtains. Movement behind the glass. The front door open. Cordelia stood in the doorway, backlit by interior lights. She'd lost weight since Christmas, I noticed. Her face was thinner, eyes shadowed. She wore yoga pants and an oversized cardigan, looking casual and unthreatening. Dad! She stepped out onto the porch, closing the door behind her. I'm sorry you came all this way. There's been a misunderstanding. I walked toward her, Thad beside me. I want to see your mother. She's asleep. I told you. Then I'll wait until she wakes up. Cordelia's expression shifted. The pleasant mask slipped just slightly, revealing something harder underneath. You can't just barge into my home uninvited. I'm not barging. I'm asking to see my wife who was screaming for help 3 nights ago. That was a nightmare, a bad dream. She has them sometimes, you know that. No, she doesn't. Cordelia's jaw tightened. Well, she's been having them here. The stress of travel, being away from home, it's affected her sleep. Malcolm appeared behind her in the doorway. Tall, broad-shouldered, expensive haircut. He looked calm, controlled, but his eyes were calculating as they moved between me and Thad. "Gideon," he said smoothly. "Good to see you. Cordelia's right. This is just a misunderstanding. Lenore's fine. She's been a bit under the weather, but she's resting comfortably." "Then I'll see her," I repeated. "She asked not to be disturbed," Malcolm said. "You know how she is when she's not feeling well, wants to be left alone." "I don't believe you." The words hung in the air. Cordelia's face flushed. "Excuse me? I don't believe you," I said again. "Your neighbor heard her screaming. You were burying something in the backyard at 2 in the morning. You have her phone, and you won't let me see her. So I'm calling the police, and you're going to explain all of this to them." I pulled out my phone. "Wait," Cordelia said quickly. "Okay, you can see her, but just for a minute. She really does need rest." She stepped aside, gesturing me into the house. Malcolm remained in the doorway, blocking it partially, his body language defensive. I looked at Thad. "Stay here. If I'm not out in 5 minutes, call me." He nodded, his expression grim. I walked past Malcolm into the house. The interior looked normal. Furniture arranged neatly, photographs on the walls, the faint scent of cleaning products and something else. Medicinal, chemical, raw. "She's upstairs," Cordelia said, leading me toward the staircase. In the guest room, we climbed. The second-floor hallway was dim, doors closed on either side. Cordelia stopped at the last door on the right. "Remember, she's sleeping," she said, hand on the doorknob. "Try not to startle her." She opened the door. The room was dark, curtains drawn against the evening light. A figure lay in the bed, motionless under blankets. I couldn't see her face. "Mom?" I crossed to the bed, reached for the lamp on the nightstand. "Don't." Cordelia started. I switched it on. "If this story reminded you of the injustices you've seen, follow the channel and turn on notifications, because wherever justice is delayed, a new revenge story begins." Lenore lay in the bed, eyes closed, skin pale, too pale. Her breathing was shallow, barely visible. An empty glass sat on the nightstand beside orange prescription bottles. I grabbed her shoulder gently. "Lenore, can you hear me?" No response. Her eyelids didn't even flutter. I checked her pulse, present but weak and irregular. "What did you give her?" I turned to Cordelia, who stood in the doorway. "What's in those bottles?" "Just her regular medications. Heart medication, blood pressure. You know she has a cardiac condition." I picked up one of the bottles. "Digoxin, prescribed to Lenora Harwick by Dr. Philip Chen, dated 3 months ago." The label said take 1 tablet daily. The bottle was nearly empty. "How many of these has she taken?" "The prescribed amount. 1 per day." I shook Lenore's shoulder harder. "Lenore, wake up. It's Gideon." "Nothing." She didn't respond at all. I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. "Don't." Cordelia stepped forward. "Dad, you're overreacting. She's just sleeping deeply." The operator answered. 911, what's your emergency?" "My wife has been poisoned. I need an ambulance immediately." I gave Cordelia's address, described Lenore's condition. The operator told me paramedics were en route. ETA 7 minutes. Cordelia's face had gone white. Poisoned? Are you insane? She's taking her prescribed medication. Then why won't she wake up? I leaned over Lenore, spoke directly into her ear. Lenore, if you can hear me, squeeze my hand. I placed my hand in hers. Waited. Felt nothing. Malcolm appeared in the doorway. What's going on? Your father-in-law thinks we poisoned Lenore, Cordelia said, her voice rising. He's called an ambulance. This is insane. She's barely conscious, I said, not looking away from Lenore's face. Her pulse is weak. She's showing signs of cardiac medication overdose. That's impossible, Cordelia insisted. I'm a pharmacist. I know exactly what I'm doing. I've been monitoring her medications carefully. Then you'll have no problem explaining that to the paramedics. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. Malcolm and Cordelia exchanged glances, some unspoken communication passing between them. The siren stopped outside. Footsteps pounded up the front walkway. Thad's voice carried from downstairs. Up here, second floor, last door on the right. Paramedics entered the room, moving with practiced efficiency. 2 men, both carrying equipment. They assessed Lenore quickly, checked her vitals, asked questions I answered while Cordelia stood frozen in the corner. Heart rate is 42, one paramedic said. BP is 90 over. Pupils are reactive but sluggish. What medications is she taking? The other asked, already preparing an IV. I handed him the prescription bottles. He read the labels, his expression shifting. Digoxin and metoprolol, both cardiac medications. How long has she been like this? I don't know. I just arrived, but she was screaming for help 3 nights ago. The paramedic's eyes sharpened. Screaming? Was she conscious then? Yes. According to a witness, they worked quickly, inserting an IV, attaching a portable heart monitor. The beeping filled the room. Irregular. Concerning. We need to transport immediately, the first paramedic said. Possible digoxin toxicity. We're taking her to OHSU. I'm coming with her, I said. Family only in the ambulance. You can follow in your car. I'm her husband. Then come on. They loaded Lenore onto a stretcher, moving her with careful speed. I followed them down the stairs, past Malcolm and Cordelia, who stood pressed against the wall. At the front door, I turned back to them. I'll be at the hospital, and when Lenore wakes up, she's going to tell me exactly what you did to her. Cordelia's face was pale, but Malcolm's expression was cold, controlled. We didn't do anything, he said. Whatever's happening to Lenore, it's not our fault. We'll see. I followed the paramedics to the ambulance. Thad stood in the driveway, his phone out, filming everything. I got it all, he said to me. Their reactions, the medications, everything. Send it to this number. I gave him my cell. And keep recording. Document anything else you see. The ambulance doors closed behind me. Through the window I watched Cordelia and Malcolm standing on their porch, watching us leave. They looked guilty. They looked terrified. Good. OHSU Hospital rose against Portland's twilight sky, a massive complex of buildings connected by skywalks. The ambulance pulled into the emergency entrance, and within seconds, medical staff surrounded us. Lenore was wheeled away on a gurney, doctors shouting medical terminology I only partly understood, digoxin levels, cardiac monitoring, activated charcoal, atropine. A nurse directed me to a waiting room. Someone will update you as soon as we know more about your wife's condition. I sat in a plastic chair, still clutching my phone. It buzzed with a text from Thad Kelso, video sent, also sending photos from Thursday night. Let me know if you need anything. The photos came through, better resolution than I'd seen on his phone screen. Clear images of Malcolm with a shovel, Cordelia with that plastic bin, and in one photo, zoomed in, I could see what was inside the bin. Jewelry, unmistakably Lenore's jewelry, the antique cameo brooch her grandmother had given her, the pearl necklace I'd bought for our 30th anniversary, the diamond earrings she wore to formal events. Why would they bury Lenore's jewelry unless they thought she wouldn't need it anymore? The realization hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't accidental. This was planned. They'd been slowly poisoning her, and when she started screaming for help, they'd panicked and buried evidence. I opened my contacts and dialed a number I hadn't called in 5 years. Montgomery Crane, my oldest friend, now a law professor at Lewis and Clark. We'd worked together when I was on the federal bench, and if anyone could help me navigate what was about to happen, it was Monty, he answered on the second ring. Gideon, is that really you? Monty, I need your help. It's urgent. What's wrong? I explained everything. The screaming, the buried jewelry, Lenore's condition, the prescription bottles. Monty listened without interrupting, and when I finished, he was silent for a long moment. Gideon, he said finally, you're describing attempted murder. And the suspects are your daughter and son-in-law. I know that too. This is going to destroy your family. My family is already destroyed. Right now, I just need to save my wife. Okay, I heard rustling, papers being moved. First, get a toxicology report from the hospital. Full panel, especially digoxin and metoprolol levels. Second, document everything. The neighbor's testimony, the photos, the timeline. Third, don't contact Cordelia or Malcolm directly. Everything goes through attorneys from here on. I need someone who can investigate, I said. Someone who can find out what they've been doing. I know someone, Rosalind Vale, former FBI, now private investigator. She's expensive, but she's the best. Want me to call her? Yes. Tell her it's urgent. Consider it done. And Gideon, Monty's voice softened. I'm sorry you're going through this, but you're doing the right thing. After we hung up, I sat in that sterile waiting room, surrounded by other people with their own emergencies, and felt something cold settle in my chest. For 30 years, I'd been a federal judge. I'd presided over criminal trials, civil disputes, complex litigation. I'd seen the worst of humanity paraded before my bench. I'd sentenced murderers, thieves, fraudsters, but I'd never imagined I'd be prosecuting my own daughter. A doctor appeared in the waiting room doorway, young, Indian, with tired eyes and a stethoscope around her neck. Mr. Harwick, I stood. How is she? Your wife is stable but critical. Her digoxin levels are nearly 4 times the therapeutic range. That's severely toxic. We're treating her with digoxin-specific antibody fragments and monitoring her cardiac function closely. Will she recover? It's too early to say. The next 24 hours are critical. If her heart rhythm stabilizes and her kidney function remains adequate, her prognosis is good. But digoxin toxicity can be fatal, Mr. Harwick. Whoever gave her these doses, she stopped, chose words carefully. This wasn't accidental. The levels indicate sustained, repeated overdosing over several days. Can I see her? Not yet. She's in the cardiac ICU, and we're still stabilizing her, but I can answer your questions. Was she conscious at all before I found her? The doctor checked her tablet. According to what we're seeing, she should have been experiencing severe symptoms for at least 3 days. Nausea, confusion, visual disturbances, heart palpitations. She would have known something was very wrong. What would you do at this point? Write it in the comments. Your thoughts are as important as the story itself. And she would have asked for help, almost certainly, if someone prevented her from getting help, if they continued giving her medications while she was symptomatic. What would that constitute? The doctor's expression shifted. Understanding dawned. That would be intentional harm, assault at minimum. Attempted murder if the dosing continued with knowledge of the danger. Thank you, doctor. After she left, I called Monty back. I need you to contact the Portland police. I'm reporting an attempted murder. Detective Octavia Ming arrived at the hospital 2 hours later. Mid-40s, sharp-eyed, wearing a blazer over jeans. She introduced herself with a firm handshake and an expression that said she'd heard too many impossible family stories to be shocked by mine. Mr. Harwick, I understand you're a retired federal judge. Yes, 28 years on the bench. Then you know how this works. I need to hear everything, and I need evidence to support it. Start from when you arrived in Portland. I walked her through the timeline, the flight, Thad Kelso's warning, the photos, the audio recording, finding Lenore unresponsive, the prescription bottles. Detective Ming took notes in a small leather notebook, her pen moving quickly. The neighbor's photos, she said. I'll need those. And the audio recording. I can forward them now. I pulled out my phone, sent everything to her email. What about the prescription bottles? Did you bring them? The paramedics took them. They should be with Lenore's belongings. Ming made a note. I'll get those analyzed. But Miss Harwick, I need to be clear about something. Your daughter is a licensed pharmacist. She has legitimate access to these medications. Proving she intentionally overdosed her mother is going to require more than just elevated drug levels. I know. That's why I hired someone to investigate. Who? Rosalind Vale. Ming's eyebrows rose slightly. Vale's good. Expensive, but good. She closed her notebook. I'm going to interview your daughter and son-in-law tonight. Do not contact them. Do not go to their house. Let me handle this. Understood. After Ming left, I was finally allowed into the ICU. Lenore lay in a bed surrounded by machines that beeped and hummed, monitoring every heartbeat, every breath. She looked smaller than I remembered, fragile against white sheets. I pulled a chair close and took her hand. It was cool, too cool. I'm here now, I said quietly, though I didn't know if she could hear me. You're safe. I'm going to make sure they answer for every second of this. Her fingers twitched slightly in my grip, just a reflex, maybe, but I held on tighter. My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. This is Rosalind Vale. Monty Crane gave me your information. I can meet tomorrow morning 8 a.m. Coffee shop on NW 23rd. Come alone. I typed back. I'll be there. The night passed in fragments. Nurses checking vitals. Doctors adjusting medications. Machines beeping their mechanical rhythms. I didn't sleep, just sat holding Lenore's hand, watching her breathe. Around 3 in the morning, her eyelids fluttered. I straightened, leaned closer. Lenore, can you hear me? Her lips moved. No sound came out, but the effort was there. Don't try to talk, just rest. You're in the hospital. Her eyes opened slightly, unfocused at first. Then finding my face, recognition flickered. Her grip on my hand tightened weakly. Cordelia, she whispered. The word was barely audible, rough from disuse and trauma. I know what she did. Tears leaked from the corners of her eyes, not from pain, I thought, but from something worse. Betrayal. The knowledge that her own daughter had tried to kill her. A nurse appeared. Checked the monitors. She's waking up. That's a good sign. But she needs to rest. Don't tire her out. I nodded, squeezed Lenore's hand one more time. Sleep. When you're stronger, you'll tell me everything. And I promise you, they'll pay for this. Her eyes closed again, but not before I saw something in them that broke my heart. Not just fear or pain, but profound sadness. The grief of losing a daughter who'd never really existed. The coffee shop on NW 23rd was called Stumptown, all exposed brick and Edison bulbs. Rosalind Vale sat at a corner table, already nursing an espresso when I arrived at exactly 8 a.m. She was late 40s, dark hair pulled back, wearing dark jeans and a leather jacket, former FBI written in every controlled movement, every assessing glance. Mr. Harwick, she gestured to the seat across from her. Monty says you need someone who can find things people want to keep hidden. My daughter tried to murder my wife for our inheritance. I need to know everything. How long she's been planning this, if she's done it before, what her financial situation really is. Rosalind pulled out a tablet, stylus ready. Tell me about your daughter, education, employment history, relationships, financial status as you understand it. I gave her everything I knew. Cordelia's pharmacy degree from Oregon Health and Science University, her job at a major chain, her marriage to Malcolm 5 years ago, their house, their cars, their apparent lifestyle that always seemed slightly beyond their means. You mentioned inheritance, Rosalind said. What are we talking about? My estate is worth approximately $3.2 million, property in Boston, investments, pension. It's all structured to go to Leonard, then to Cordelia after we both pass. And if Leonard died first, under the current will, I inherit her portion of joint assets, about $800,000, then everything goes to Cordelia when I die. Rosalind made notes. So killing Leonard wouldn't immediately benefit Cordelia unless you died too. The words were brutal, but accurate. Unless they planned to make it look like natural causes, wait a few months, then arrange an accident for you, make it look unrelated. Rosalind set down her stylus. It's a long game, patient, that suggests planning and sophistication. Cordelia's a pharmacist. She understands drug interactions, dosing, toxicity, which makes her dangerous. Rosalind pulled up something on her tablet, turned it to show me. I did some preliminary research last night. Your daughter has a previous engagement before Malcolm. Did you know that? Yes, to a man named Ambrose Sterling. It ended about 6 years ago. It didn't just end. Ambrose Sterling died. Drug overdose. Accidental, according to the medical examiner. My chest tightened. What kind of drugs? Combination of prescription pain medication and alcohol. Found dead in his apartment. No signs of foul play. She pulled up another document. But here's what's interesting. Ambrose had a life insurance policy. $250,000. Beneficiary, Cordelia Chase, his fiancée at the time. She collected $250,000 when he died. Within 3 months of his death. No investigation. No questions. Clean payout. I sat back, processing this. You think she killed him too? I think it's a pattern worth examining. Engaged to a man with life insurance. He dies under circumstances that could be explained as accidental. She collects. A few years later, she marries Malcolm, and suddenly her mother starts showing signs of drug toxicity. What about Malcolm? Does he have a history? Rosalind swiped to another file. Malcolm Brennan, married once before, to a woman named Patricia Brennan. They divorced 4 years ago, after Patricia suffered a severe accident, fell downstairs in their home, resulted in permanent spinal injury and partial paralysis. Jesus! Patricia filed for divorce while recovering in a rehab facility. She claimed in the filing that Malcolm had become increasingly dangerous and she feared for her life. But she didn't press charges, didn't elaborate, just took the divorce settlement and disappeared. Can you find her? Already did. She lives in Eugene, in an assisted living facility. I can interview her if you want, but it'll cost extra. Do it. I need to know if Malcolm has a history of hurting people. I'll drive down this afternoon. Rosalind closed her tablet. Miss Harwick, what you're describing is 2 people with potential histories of violence and financial fraud. If they've been planning to kill you and your wife for inheritance money, they're not going to stop just because Lenore survived. You need to be careful. I was a federal judge for 3 decades. I know how to handle threats. Federal judges have security. You're retired and vulnerable. Watch your back. After Rosalind left, I returned to the hospital. Lenore was awake, propped up on pillows, more color in her face. A nurse was checking her IV when I entered. She's doing much better, the nurse said cheerfully. Digoxin levels are dropping. Heart rhythm is stabilizing. We're very encouraged. Lenore's eyes found mine. Gideon. I crossed to her bedside, took her hand. How are you feeling? Like I was hit by a truck. Her voice was stronger than last night, though still rough. How long have I been here? Since yesterday evening. You were barely conscious when I found you at Cordelia's house. Her expression shifted. Pain flickered across her face. She did it. She poisoned me. I kept trying to tell myself I was imagining things, that she wouldn't, that I was being paranoid, but her voice broke. Tell me what happened. Everything. Lenore took a shaky breath. It started about a week after I arrived. I began feeling sick, nauseous, dizzy. Cordelia said it was the altitude change, that Portland's climate was affecting me. She gave me medicine, said it would help. What kind of medicine? I don't know. She just handed me pills and said they'd settle my stomach. I trusted her. She's a pharmacist. She's my daughter. Lenore's voice hardened on the last word, but I kept getting worse. My heart started racing. I couldn't sleep. I was seeing halos around lights. I told her I needed to go to a doctor. What did she say? She said I was overreacting, that it was just. She kept giving me more pills, saying they'd help me sleep, help my heart, help my nausea, but I kept getting worse. When did you realize something was wrong? Thursday night. 3 nights ago, I woke up and my heart was pounding so hard I thought it would explode. I couldn't breathe. I was terrified. Tears welled in her eyes. I went downstairs, tried to call you, but my phone was gone. I found it in Cordelia's purse. She'd taken it. My hand tightened on hers. Keep going. I confronted, asked why she had my phone, why I was so sick, why she wouldn't take me to a doctor. She just looked at me. No expression, nothing. Then Malcolm came downstairs and she swallowed hard. He grabbed me, physically held me while Cordelia gave me another injection. She said it would help me sleep. An injection of what? I don't know. But I started screaming, begging them to let me go, to call you, to get help. Malcolm covered my mouth, but I bit his hand and screamed again. That must have been when the neighbor heard me. Thad Kelso. He called 911. I heard siren. Malcolm and Cordelia panicked. They let me go, told me if I said anything to the police, they'd have me committed for dementia, said no one would believe me over them, that I was confused from medication. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Then they went outside. I heard Dick. When they came back inside, Cordelia gave me more pills, said if I took them and went to sleep quietly, everything would be fine. If I didn't, subscribe and stay tuned so you don't miss any true revenge stories. Sometimes even silence is the strongest form of revenge. What did she say? She said accidents happen to confused elderly people, that I could fall down the stairs, or wander outside and get lost, or take too many pills by mistake. She said it would be better for everyone if I just went to sleep. Lenore was crying openly now. I took the pills because I was terrified. I thought if I fought back they'd kill me right there, so I pretended to cooperate. Took the pills. Upstairs. And then everything went dark. The next thing I remember is waking up here, seeing you. I pulled her into a careful embrace, mindful of the IVs and monitors. You're safe now. They can't hurt you anymore. Are they in jail? Not yet, but they will be. I'm building a case, gathering evidence. By the time I'm done, they'll face every charge that applies: attempted murder, assault, elder abuse, fraud. She pulled back, looked at me directly. Gideon, I don't want to see her again, ever. I know she's our daughter, but she tried to kill me, and the way she looked at me when she threatened me. Lenore's voice shook. That wasn't my daughter. I don't know what she is, but she's not the child I raised. I know, and I did. The daughter we'd raised had died long ago, replaced by someone capable of cold-blooded murder. We'll make sure she can't hurt anyone else. Detective Ming called that afternoon while I was still at the hospital. Mr. Harwick, I interviewed your daughter and son-in-law last night. Their story is that your wife was self-medicating, taking extra doses because she was anxious about being away from home. That's a lie. I know. I also executed a search warrant this morning. Found some interesting items, such as empty vials of injectable digoxin in the bathroom trash. Cordelia claims they were expired medications from her pharmacy that she brought home to dispose of properly, but the dates on the vials are recent, within the past 2 weeks. She was injecting Lenore. That's my working theory. I also found your wife's jewelry buried in the backyard, exactly where the neighbor's photos showed digging activity. When I asked about it, Cordelia claimed your wife asked her to bury them for safekeeping because she was paranoid about theft. My wife was screaming for help while they buried evidence. I believe you, But here's the problem. It's your wife's word against theirs. Cordelia's a pharmacist with spotless professional record. Malcolm's a successful real estate agent. They look credible. Your wife was found with elevated drug levels. A defense attorney could argue she was confused, took too many pills herself, and misremembered events. What about Ambrose Sterling? Silence. Then how do you know about Ambrose Sterling? My investigator found records. Cordelia was engaged to him. He died of a drug overdose. She collected $250,000 in life insurance. I'll need to look into that. You should also look into Malcolm's ex-wife, Patricia. She had a suspicious accident that left her paralyzed. Filed for divorce, claiming she feared for her life. More silence. Mr. Harwick, are you conducting your own investigation? I hired a private investigator. Everything I'm finding is legal and admissible. Send me what you have, all of it. If there's a pattern here, I need to see it. Rosalind called an hour later. I'm in Eugene. Just finished interviewing Patricia Brennan. You need to hear this. I'm listening. Patricia says Malcolm pushed her down those stairs. Deliberately. They'd been arguing about money, his gambling debts. She threatened to cut off his access to her inheritance from her parents. That night he pushed her from the top of a staircase. She broke her back in 3 places. Did she report it? No. She was terrified. Malcolm visited her in the hospital. Told her if she accused him of anything, he'd finish the job. So she filed for divorce, took a small settlement just to get away, and hasn't spoken to him since. Will she testify? She's scared, but she's willing to make a statement, especially when I told her what happened to your wife. She said I knew he'd hurt someone else eventually. He's got dead eyes. What else did you find? Malcolm has gambling debts totaling about owes money to some very unpleasant people. Cordelia's pharmacy is under investigation by the State Board for inventory discrepancies, medications going missing, and get this, 2 weeks before your wife arrived in Portland, Cordelia called an estate attorney asking about probate timelines and inheritance laws. The pieces fell into place. Financial desperation plus opportunity equals motive. How quickly can you document all of this? I'll have a full report by tomorrow morning. Photos, statements, financial records, everything. Send it to Detective Octavia Ming at Portland. Copy me and Montgomery Crane. Consider it done. That evening, Monty visited me at the hospital. He brought legal documents, powers of attorney, updated medical directives, a new will that completely excluded Cordelia. This isn't just about protecting yourself, he said as I signed. It's about making sure if something happens to you, Cordelia gets nothing. The will explicitly states that she's disinherited due to attempted harm against you and Lenore. What about Lenore's will? I've drafted an update for her too. Everything goes to charity if you both pass. Cordelia's explicitly excluded. Lenore signed with a shaking hand. Her signature barely legible but legally valid. There's one more thing, Monty said. I've filed a restraining order on your behalf. Cordelia and Malcolm can't come within 500 feet of either of you. Violation means immediate arrest. Good. Gideon, they're going to retaliate. They've built their entire plan around inheriting your money. Now they're losing everything. Be prepared for them to lash out. He was right. But I didn't care. Let them try. The retaliation came faster than expected. Cordelia's attorney called the next morning, threatening to sue me and Lenore for defamation and emotional distress. They claimed we were making false accusations that had destroyed Cordelia's professional reputation. I laughed when Monty read me the letter. She tried to murder her mother, and she's claiming emotional distress. It's a pressure tactic. They want you to back down. Not happening. Detective Ming called that afternoon with an update. The DA is filing charges. Attempted murder in the first degree for both Cordelia and Malcolm. Conspiracy, assault, elder abuse. Bail hearing is tomorrow. Will they get bail? The DA is going to argue no bail due to flight risk and danger to victims. But with their clean records and community ties, judge might grant high bail. How high? $500,000 each, maybe. They don't have that kind of money. Exactly. So they'll sit in jail until trial. The bail hearing happened the next. I sat in the courtroom gallery, Monty beside me, watching as Cordelia and Malcolm were led in wearing orange jumpsuits. Cordelia's hair was unwashed, her face pale without makeup. She looked diminished, ordinary, not the polished daughter who'd always presented herself so carefully. Malcolm looked worse, dark circles under his eyes, jaw clenched, radiating barely contained rage. The judge, not someone I knew, thankfully, reviewed the charges with clinical detachment. The state has presented evidence of deliberate, premeditated poisoning of a family member. The victims are elderly and were vulnerable in the defendant's care. Given the severity of charges and strength of evidence, I'm setting bail at $750,000 each. Cordelia's attorney objected, "Your Honor, my client is a licensed pharmacist with no criminal record. She has deep roots in this community. She's not a flight risk. Your client is accused of attempting to murder her own mother for financial gain," the judge replied. "Bail stands. Next case." They were led away. Cordelia looked back once, her eyes finding mine across the courtroom. No tears, no pleading, just cold calculation, trying to assess whether I'd soften, whether there was still a way to manipulate me. I stared back, expressionless. She was led through a side door, and that was that. Rosalind's full report arrived the next morning, 47 pages documenting everything. Cordelia's call to the estate attorney, Malcolm's gambling debts, the missed pharmacy medications, Patricia's testimony about being pushed down the stairs, financial records showing increasing desperation over the past year, and then, buried on page 32, something that made my blood run cold. Ambrose Sterling's death was being reinvestigated by Georgia authorities. New toxicology evidence suggested the accidental overdose might not have been accidental. The combination of drugs in his system was consistent with deliberate poisoning. Cordelia was now a suspect in a potential murder case in another state. I forwarded everything to Detective Ming with a simple message: pattern of behavior. She's done this before. The trial was set for November 15th, 3 months away. In the meantime, Cordelia and Malcolm sat in jail, unable to make bail. Lenore recovered slowly. By late June, she was strong enough to be discharged from the hospital. We stayed in Portland. I wasn't ready to fly her back to Boston yet, renting a small apartment near the hospital for follow-up appointments. One evening, we sat on the apartment's small balcony, watching Portland's summer sunset paint the sky orange and pink. "Do you regret it?" Lenore asked quietly. "Prosecuting her, cutting her off completely?" I thought about it honestly. No, she tried to kill you. That's not something you forgive or forget. She's still our daughter. No, she's not. That person died a long time ago. What's left is someone who was willing to murder her own mother for money. That's not our daughter. That's a criminal. Lenore nodded slowly, tears sliding down her cheeks. I keep remembering her as a child. The way she'd climb into my lap with books, the way she'd laugh. Where did that person go? I don't know. Maybe she was never real. Maybe we just saw what we wanted to see. We sat in silence, holding hands, watching the sun disappear behind Portland's West Hills. The trial approached. Cordelia's attorney tried everything: motions to suppress evidence, motions to separate trials, motions to exclude testimony about Ambrose Sterling. All denied. A week before trial, Malcolm cracked. His attorney contacted the DA with a plea offer: testimony against Cordelia in exchange for reduced charges, attempted assault instead of attempted murder, 15 years instead of 25 to life. He's turning on her, Monty told me over coffee. Claims the whole thing was Cordelia's idea, that she manipulated him into helping, played on his gambling debts, promised they'd be rich if they just eliminated you and Lenore. That you believe him? Doesn't matter what I believe. His testimony combined with everything else will convict Cordelia. Then make the deal. Malcolm's testimony was devastating. He described every conversation, every planning session, every dose of poison administered. Cordelia had researched everything, optimal drug combinations, how to make it look natural, how long to wait between deaths to avoid suspicion. She'd planned to kill Lenore first, wait 6 months, then arrange an accident from a car crash, maybe, or a fall. Something explainable for a man in his late 60s. The trial lasted 2 weeks. I sat in the gallery every day, watching Cordelia's careful mask crack, little by little as evidence piled up. When Lenore testified, her voice shaking but clear, describing how Cordelia had threatened her and forcibly injected her with poison, Cordelia's composure finally shattered. She began crying, calling out, "Mom, please, I'm sorry, it wasn't supposed to." The judge had her removed from the courtroom. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Guilty on all counts: attempted murder in the first degree, conspiracy, assault, elder abuse, fraud. Sentencing came 3 weeks later. The judge, a woman about Cordelia's age, with steel in her voice, showed no mercy. "Ms. Brennan, you exploited your position as a pharmacist and as a daughter to nearly kill your own mother. You planned this over months, researched methods, obtained drugs illegally, and when your victim begged for help, you threatened her into silence. This court sees no evidence of remorse, no indication you understand the gravity of your actions." She paused. 25 years to life in state prison. You'll be eligible for parole after 20 years, but that's not guaranteed. It depends entirely on whether you can demonstrate genuine rehabilitation. The gavel fell. Cordelia was led away. She didn't look at me or Lenore, just stared straight ahead, face blank, accepting her fate. Malcolm was sentenced separately. 15 years with possibility of parole after 10, accounting for his testimony. We flew back to Boston in early December. Lenore had regained most of her strength, though the doctors warned the poisoning had permanently damaged her heart. She'd need medication for the rest of her life, careful monitoring, regular checkups, but she was alive. That was what mattered. The estate attorney updated our wills. Everything went to charity, medical research, addiction treatment programs, anything that might prevent other families from going through what we'd endured. One evening, we sat in our Boston living room, the same room where Cordelia had played as a child, and Lenore asked the question that had haunted us both. When did she change? When did our daughter become someone who could kill? "I don't think she changed," I said slowly. "I think she was always capable of it. We just didn't see it because we didn't want to. There were signs. Looking back, there were always signs. Maybe, or maybe she learned to hide it well." We sat in silence. On the mantel, there were photos of Cordelia at various ages, birthday parties, graduation, wedding day. We'd never taken them down after the trial. Couldn't quite bring ourselves to erase her from our history completely. But we'd turned them face down, couldn't look at them anymore. "Do you think she'll ever understand what she did?" Lenore asked. "I don't know. 25 years is a long time. Maybe in prison she'll find some kind of remorse, or maybe she'll just convince herself she was the victim. I hope she finds remorse, not for her sake, for mine. I don't want to have raised a monster who feels nothing." I took Lenore's hand. "You didn't raise a monster. You raised a child with every opportunity, every advantage. What she became after that was her choice. Our daughter tried to kill me, I know, and she almost succeeded, but she didn't. You're here, you're alive, and she'll spend the next 25 years paying for what she did." We sat together as winter darkness fell over Boston. Outside, the city continued its rhythms, people going home from work, holiday lights beginning to appear, life proceeding as it always had. But for us, everything had changed. We'd looked into the face of betrayal from within our own family, survived an attempt on our lives by someone we'd loved unconditionally, and we'd ensured justice was served. The inheritance Cordelia had murdered for would never touch her hands. The life she'd tried to steal continued without her. The daughter we'd raised was gone, replaced by a prisoner serving a sentence she'd earned. That was the truth we had to live with. It wasn't easy, it wasn't pretty, but it was justice, and sometimes justice was the only closure available. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.